That was so welcome back anyway.
Thanks.
Richard
Thanks. It's
Barry.
it's good that you're back as well. It's good that you're back, Glenn. I actually went back at a few of your YouTube videos
Yeah,
after you released the pod last week, and I was like, the stuff I learned from them in 2017 when I was kind of starting to take cross more seriously
yeah, yeah.
was huge. Just going back watching them was quite cool.
That's the whole thing. There's a lot in here what I'm trying to get out and what way to put it out. That's the whole thing with these videos. But we're joined again this week. Richard Barry. Uh,
Thanks for
what's the
having me.
proper title? E Swift or E Cycling Ireland? E.
Esports, Cycling Ireland Esports National Champion
Well done. That was
Thank you.
yesterday. We'll
Yesterday,
run
yes.
through that and also fifth at the cyclocross champs a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's only 2 weeks ago. That was again a really, really good result for me. I mean, a result that I was kind of probably the best I could do in the day, but it matched my best ever, national championship result in cross. So really proud of that one too.
Brilliant. So form is good at the minute.
Form is good. Form is good. It'll probably have a bit of a steep decline over the next couple of weeks. I'm heading
Yeah,
over to France next weekend as well
Oh, are
for
you going too? Big Jerry's
yeah.
Tours? See you there.
No, where there's five. We'll see you there. We're not going in Jerry's stores. There's
Oh,
five of
jeez.
us in
Okay.
Cork going, so but
Okay.
we'll have
Uh,
a good meet up there too.
yeah, just name Van Art's put his name down for the
Oh,
start
it's going to be
list.
class.
Yeah,
I'm delighted because Van der Poel just was gone after 4 minutes today, and that was
yeah,
that.
yeah. So we'll break the race down yesterday. So it was
Yeah.
42K on Swift, and
Yes.
there was maybe 15 of us all together. I started.
I
I
think,
started.
yeah, I think there was 12 started. There should have been maybe 14, but a couple were victims of the storm and still didn't have power. I know the silver
Okay.
medalist last year, Colin Clavin, couldn't start because he had no power,
Okay.
and maybe one or two others. But I was surprised actually how many made the start, considering how bad Thursday
Yeah.
night and Friday was.
So
So
it all started on Thursday. We would have got an email basically with the
hmm
to-do list. So if anyone's not familiar with it, you have to video yourself on the scales, video your height, and that's all for doping, basically, e-doping.
basically, yeah, and I think the way Cycling Ireland do it is quite a good way in terms of that there's enough verification to make it fair, but they don't. It's not a massive barrier.
Yeah.
Like some of the bigger races, there's a little bit more verification. Like they're quite strict on what turbo trainers you use, but I
Okay.
don't think that shouldn't really come into it when we
Yeah.
want to get more people racing it. Do you know? But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that comes in on Thursday. You have to submit your pre-verification by close of play Friday,
Yeah.
just to make sure. And a big thing of that as well is your in real life results or your in real life powers. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, when you come to national championships, you know as well as anybody, okay, you might get a peak performance on the day of a nationals, but realistically, it's going to be very, very close
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
the peak
Yeah.
performances you've done before when you're on form, especially at my age at 35, 36. You're not like you might be at the same level, but
Yeah. Yeah.
if you are getting better, it's very, very small. So I think that's another layer that you have to provide historical data that you can actually, it backs up your performance.
Yeah, so
Um,
it's so easy to cheat basically because if you enter 1 kilo less, it's going to be
mhm.
or your height as well. So
The smaller you
it,
are, the faster you'll be. So
yeah,
I think
well, yeah,
I think for like because that's what a lot of people who maybe aren't familiar with esports and Zwift racing or racing on my whoosh is like, how can you validate such a big race? Because a national title is
oh yeah,
huge.
yeah, yeah,
Well, in my and it's like, well, okay, for the easy way to do it or the best way to do it is probably a live event, which we had was it 3 years ago actually
three years
we had a
ago,
live
yeah,
event in Dublin, and I'd love to see that come back. But outside of that, then you have your height check, your weight check, your
yeah,
historical data. You can go down deeper rabbit holes, and
oh yeah,
in world championships they do go a bit deeper than that. But I think once you know the race is as fair as it can be,
yeah.
it's
It's good
not
for the
that's it.
sport,
And
yeah,
it's good for the sport, and as well, it's nice to see like I suppose from the Irish community we're quite big on Zwift, and
yeah,
it's nice to see these riders. Like I was lining up, I know Ian, I know Stuart Miller, I know you, I know Rory Woods. I've met all these people.
yeah,
It's not like it's not like some randomer in that you don't know going, who's he? Like
Yeah, yeah.
The Irish cycling community is small, so it kind of helps that actually we know these, right? We're racing them on the road, or we're racing them in cross, or we're racing them in other disciplines as well.
I think the guys before they're going to cheat at this level, they'll maybe go to extremes, which again with the breakfast and the foods, they'll do that first before they'll cheat, and like, do you know what I mean? Like
And I don't think,
they'll
and
starve
again,
themselves.
yeah, and then obviously they're going to have a huge drop off in performance. Then with, let's say, it takes time to get right, like, because we were just saying, discussing before we came on, like if we just take weight for example, it's a very, when dangerous is probably the wrong word, but it's a very tricky thing to mess with
Yeah,
because it's going to affect your performance massively, and more so negatively by trying to hit that low number, because
yeah,
like no one likes weighing, and I've been lucky enough to be able to race like quite high level Zwift races for the last probably 3 years. So
yeah,
I've done, I don't know how many weigh-ins I've done now at this stage. It's been quite a lot, and it's so easy to say, oh, I could hit 59, but then you could be 50 watts. You could have nothing at the end of the race. So it doesn't
yeah,
matter
yeah,
that you're 59. It doesn't matter you're a kilo less or
yeah,
2 kilos less if you don't have it in the tank. Um, and also,
yeah.
it's kind of a strange thing with weighing in. I think we're obsessed with getting it as low, and actually, I've come to terms with, particularly the last 18 months, get it right. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be low. It doesn't have to be high. You find your weight that you're best at racing at, and I find, let's say, because obviously we had to weigh in the morning of the race as well. I'm looking at that weigh in 2 days out, not on the day. I'm looking at it maybe 2.5 days
I'm
out, and
planning around it. Yeah,
I'm plan, and it's not that I'm eating less. I'm just changing what I'm eating. So I'll,
yeah, yeah.
let's say, for particularly for a big race like national championships or worlds, I'll cut out high residue food. So like I'll cut out, let's say, um, like I'll cut out a bit of veg. I'll cut out high fiber foods, and I'll reduce my salt intake in terms I won't be adding salt to foods and things like that.
Okay.
And ultimately, that just cleans out your gut, and you'll,
Yeah, yeah.
like when you get to weigh in, you know you're going to be fueled, you're going to be, as I say, in and around that weight. Like I weighed in at like 60.5, and when I get up in the morning, in general, that's roughly, I'll be anywhere between 60 and
Yeah, yeah.
61. But obviously your
Okay.
weight is huge. Your weight fluctuates throughout the day.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
you could
yeah,
be 60, like you could be 60 in the morning, 62 in the evening. You 60 again in the morning, 62 and a half in the evening, you know. So it's like it's easily manipulated by what you eat, and some people take that far to extremes, or they'll hop on the turbo trainer and sweat out for half an hour before, and suddenly they're in the depths of dehydration, and
yeah.
the
Even
performance
the
doesn't as well.
if you take a liter of water, that's a kilo. You know, and you
Yeah.
probably sweat. Well, I don't know if you'd sweat a liter, but you wouldn't be too far off it. Maybe an hour's
I ha-
race.
you I have done. I've like, it depends on the temperature and depends where
Yeah,
you're racing in, but like it's I have certainly lost, like, even if you're racing on the road or you're racing cross. I've never done it, but I'd love to weigh in at the start of a cross race,
yeah,
as in just check my weight, and then
yeah,
at the
yeah,
end, because you know what that's like. You
yeah.
don't have time to take in any food or drink in a cross
No,
race.
Jason, no.
I just love to see how much you lose, and it's not just water. It's like you're using glycogen as well, and that could be another half a kilo of glycogen in your muscles that's gone too. Do you know?
Yeah, yeah. So
Because the energy is coming from somewhere.
that was the way, and then so that was at the race was at 2 o'clock, which for me
Yeah.
was an awkward time because it was the first half of the day. You know, if it had been at 9 o'clock, it would have been perfect.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so the race was two. The weigh-in was at 12, and then
12.
you had
Yeah.
a 2 hour window. Half an hour you had to get in, be online in the start pen as
Hmm.
such, and then the race. What was the circuit called? Breakfast and crits.
Yeah. Breakfast grits and crits. So it's a
Crits,
course
yeah,
in Scotland.
yeah.
It's a new enough course. I think
It's sort of
they designed it at the end of last year.
like the
It's quite
world's
punchy.
yeah, a couple of wee climbs and then
Yeah,
did
he
laps.
used he
Yeah,
used he used a couple of the
yeah.
world's climb. So you started out straight up a climb, minute and a half climb. Like there was no hiding. It was like you're out the
No,
gate and then
it
straight up.
caught me out. So I don't know. I could
And
probably go back and look at it and break my race down a good bit, but I just didn't have the legs. But I just wanted to be part of it and see how far I got. And the first 5 minutes, I don't even think I made 5 minutes. It turned left up
mm,
the climb, and I seen all the numbers on the screen going red.
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't have this, and I was sort of allowing the slippage going to the front and allowing it to come back, but
Yeah.
just nothing, just nothing.
It's just so, and I was kind of, I expected, like, going out there, I knew Ian was up for it, and I knew Stuart was up for it, and they were kind of the two guys I was watching, and my plan was, okay, I'll hit the climb hard because everybody then has to go hard.
Yeah,
But it turns out that was definitely Stuart's plan as well because he hit the feather power up, which made him lighter right at the bottom and just gassed it. And I was like, all right, if we're going to start like this, let's go
yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah.
You
And then so
know?
what way after that? It was a bit of flat, and then I went over to Glasgow town as such, and there was a couple of
Yeah,
kickers in
yeah.
there. What way did the race pan out then?
So there was four of us, actually, no, five of us actually over once we got down the descent. There was kind of Stuart, myself, Ian, Brian Geary, who was, I think he was actually 10th. He races cross as well, actually.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was 10th in the M40 racing cross. We kind of, when you look at the clock and it's like 40K to go and there's three of you, you're like, no one's riding in this. Like, so he closed the gap of maybe 2 seconds, and then Rory Woods came back, and then there was another rider actually, six riders, Ben and Caro came back, um,
maybe I should have
and
held on. I might have got
and
back
then
on,
yeah, but
especially on
then
the
but then
descent.
we had like 20 seconds to the next troop, and then Stuart and Ian just decided to go nuts. I think Ian attacked. He kind of used the downhill really well on the Glasgow circuit, and he attacked. And I couldn't, like, if I tried to follow him on the downhill, I'd have burnt too many matches. Like attacking on a downhill, unless you're a bigger rider, is a
Yeah,
bad idea because
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like Ian's raw watts are so much higher than mine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
For me to catch him, I'm burning too much. So, but at the same time, I can't leave Ian right away at 5.5 watts a kilo because he will right away. You know what he's like.
yeah,
He's that good. So once we got off that, I had to jump across, and of course, then you've got the teamwork element. So Stuart's on me, and then Brian kind of closes it again because
yeah.
Stuart, and even though they're different clubs, they're on the same esports club.
Okay.
Um, and then Ian had another attack, Stuart had another attack, and I was at this stage going, I was looking at my numbers, and I was like, something stupid, like in terms of the fact that it's not always on the pedaling, it's like 310 watts average for the first like 15 minutes. And I was like, this is stupid.
Yeah,
Like, so for me, that's like whatever, 5.2. And it's like, usually you can use a bit of gameplay to
yeah, yeah,
lessen that. Um, so I was really kind of, I was thinking if they can keep this up, fair play, because
yeah,
I am hurting here. Um, Managed to recover a little bit. There was a little bit of a drag. It all settled down just for a couple of minutes, and then I threw in an attack as we went around one of the smaller circuits, um, and kind of Stewart came over the top of that attack and really pushed on, and that's where Ian got gapped, and he didn't. It wasn't a massive gap at first. It was like 10, 15 seconds, but myself and Stewart could kind of settle into a bit of a steadier rhythm at that point. So that kind of made the race then. Ian was kind of on his own, we were on our own, but he was never more than 30 seconds behind because we
jeez, okay.
weren't like at that stage. Myself and Stuart are kind of looking at each other. You're not putting all your cards on your table. You're not driving it on full gas because I was thinking, well, if Ian was dropped there, he wants to be up with us. So if he comes back, in my head, if Ian came back, it wasn't the worst
Yeah, yeah,
situation in
yeah,
the
yeah.
world. So you're playing off that angle as well. And then up the climb the second time, Stewart just went full gas. And again, I was worried because I was like, if he can do this the last time,
Yeah.
this is going to be, I'll need everything. Um, and that's when it started getting really tactical. We were kind of playing chicken with each other. Like we were like if you looked at our average power for the second lap, I'd say it was through the floor. It was like, it was just funny. You're kind of, and you know what each other's doing. You're kind of, I'll give a little bit just to maybe hold the gap or keep it moving, but I'm not giving everything. Um, and he attacked on the small Glasgow circuit.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, okay, okay. And that's when I started feeling a bit better actually when he attacked. So over the next drag, I gave an attack just before the drag ended. So accelerated over the top and into the downhill. And I got 8 or 9 seconds pretty quickly on him. And he just would not budge. He would not go. It was like I was doing whatever 5.5 watts a kilo, and he was
Yeah.
doing 5.5 watts a kilo. I dropped to 5.3, he'd go up to 5.6, and it
Uh,
was staying at 9. And I was looking at it going, I've 10K to go here, and I'm on my limit. I'm hoping he's on his limit, but the gap is staying the same.
okay, okay.
And it was then I just said, right, I need to back off here because I know for that last 5 minutes of that race, Stewart has done 7 watts a kilo for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And if he can put that in, and if he catches me and then does that, I'm dead. Now, I don't think he would have been able to, but because you can't see the riders next to you,
Yeah, yeah.
because you can't see what they're looking like, you can't see what, if they're
Self-doubt
suffering,
sometimes,
if they're
yeah.
not suffering. You kind of have to make decisions on, right, I have 8 seconds, I'm not going anywhere. The gap isn't opening. He's matching me for power. I'll back off. And when I backed off slightly, kind of he came back into it, and then for the last, I'd say 5K, it was just looking at each other, kind of shadow boxing as much as anything, because I knew if I was expecting him to go at the bottom of the final climb, and I knew if he didn't, it meant he was tired, and if he didn't go at the bottom, I knew then if I hit at 300 to go, I'm just a bit of a bit more punchier than Stewart. Like he's beaten me in plenty of races, but I don't know in a 2 up sprint has he ever beaten me. And it was kind of trying to create that situation at the end where if we both had to open up our sprints at 300 to go, I just had to have confidence at that stage that I was going to be that bit punchier. Um, but he was still right in my wheel crossing the line. It was like half a second. There was nothing in
Jeez.
it. It
Fair
was kind of
play.
like, and I was messaging him after, like, and chatting to him after, and it was just we kind of said it was the ideal course for that kind of race because it rewarded having good legs and being strong, but
Yeah.
it also rewarded riding a smart race. There was a massive tactical battle there as well, as opposed to just an exercise contest.
Yeah, because it was all broken. It was all different sort of sections as well. So
Mm.
probably parts that you could have uh, got a gap on, but other sections where it was just all flat. But they weren't crazy long. Some of the races you go to,
No,
yeah, a lot of draft.
yeah, and it was like I think last year's race, the circuit to watch last year's race would have been quite boring, I'd say, because the consequence of winning the race is so high, or medaling is like there's a national medal on the table, so you're not going to say, oh, I'm going to attack here with 20K to go, because you're not going to risk a national medal on doing something that you know is likely to fail. So last year was kind of like a lot of shadow boxing, but no one really committing
Yeah,
because you have that fear of, well, if I commit now and it doesn't work, I'm going to be gassed for the
match is
sprint.
burnt. Yeah,
Um, whereas I found this year's race circuit was a nice balance where there was an element of you could commit in certain sections and get a gap and it benefit your race, but then there was other times where you just had to ride smart and look what the other riders was doing.
hold
Like
on. Yeah,
I was watching, like it was funny coming into the bottom of the final climb. Like I'd say the last kilometer, we were literally riding side by side, virtually. None of us
yeah,
wanted to be ahead. None of it, like the
yeah,
amount
yeah.
of times we dropped to like 0 watts and just kind of track standed a bit and just kind of
Well, seriously,
trying to feel each other out. It was just,
did you live stream it?
I live streamed it. Actually, it's up on my YouTube channel now. I
Yeah.
live streamed it on
Okay.
Twitch.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I was trying to
so
go through the app and pair on the Ian and try and watch it after
yeah,
I couldn't get anything. So yeah, I'll
I
find,
live streamed it. I live streamed it on Twitch, and then I just afterwards I uploaded it to YouTube. So it is up there if people want to watch it.
yeah.
Um, I
The
think
last
particularly
the
like
last
if
the
you
last
watch
bit will
even the
be good to
last
watch.
15K, even if you watch like the last 15K, it's really tactical. You can see like, you know, that neither myself and Stuart like are fully committing, but
Yeah.
then you're kind of like you can hopefully people can see that because sometimes
Yeah.
that's hard
Well,
when
I'll
in these
link
kind
I'll
of
link
races.
that in as well. Yeah.
Do
What about the E Wordles then? Is any talk of that happening or for
That
yourself?
was that was actually on in October in on it was
Okay.
on a different platform on my Whoosh and Stuart rode that as well. We rode it was the Esports World semi-finals
Yeah.
and the top 20 qualified for Abu Dhabi, a live
Okay.
final in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, very
I
nice.
just missed out. I think I was 25th or 26th in the live in the semi-finals. So I just missed out. Chris Dawson was racing it as well. He wasn't he was close enough to qualifying for Abu Dhabi as well. So like now it's not just Zwift. You have my Whoosh
Yeah.
is a big esports
That's,
platform as
I've,
well.
I've, I've seen that, and there's another one. Is it Ruve or
Ruby's
something?
there as well, yeah. And
Ruve, yeah.
I think it's kind of it at the moment. It's kind of going Zwift and my Whoosh, and then Ruby, like because
Okay,
my Whoosh is free for everybody at the moment. It's funded by they sponsor UAE, but it's funded by the UAE as well.
okay.
And they were kind of the first to to bring big prize money into esports. Um,
Yeah.
so that's kind of their draw to get riders in. But they are developing all the time. Like I actually take a they're doing things like live coaching, and I take a live coaching session once a week, and
Brilliant.
the app and the game is really pushing on from that point. But it's forced Zwift then to up their game. So the Zwift
Yeah.
World Series this year has been fantastic,
Yeah.
and we've still two races left in that. But like, it's kind of it's that cliche or phrase like a rising tide lifts all boats.
And,
If one
and
app
how
is pushing
much
the boundaries here
it's a
and
knock
another is
on
pushing the
knock on
boundary there,
effect.
then it's like it's not going to affect yeah.
What how many like sort of Swift sessions would you do a week, say around the Swift season and the cross season?
Um, I reckon I know it's kind of strange for being a cyclocross rider, but outside of cross racing, I could be on between family and all of that. That is just easy to hop on. I could be
Yeah.
on Zwift 5, 6 times a week. I mean, if I do get outside,
Same.
I'll get
Yeah.
outside. I'll get out. I'll get in the Saturday morning, the day
Yeah.
before the race. But it's just like it's so easy to get up. If you get up early in the morning, get up out of bed into the garage. There's no messing. You're on,
True.
or you come home straight from work. You're on for an hour. You're getting it
Yeah.
done. There's no faffing with bottles, with gear, with bikes.
Yeah.
You're just
Washing.
there.
Washing
Um,
well, washing
and
the gear.
yeah, yeah. But it's just it's so easy. In terms of training, and I think cyclocross has helped my Zwift racing, but Zwift racing has certainly helped my cross training,
Yeah,
my
true.
cyclocross racing as well.
I would always try and go for like the 40K races, like they are.
Hmm.
Um, and they always end up coming down to a sprint. So I wouldn't have that top power. Like
Yeah,
even for my figure to stand up is a rare occasion. So it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
So I'm liking the longer races and maybe like a long range attack. Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
What?
it's and I think that's the thing with Swift. There's quite a lot of races. You can just if you look at one with high numbers and an hour long race, you can get a really good session in. And I found, let's say, look, my coach, Andy Lay as well. Like
Yeah.
he'll always schedule at least one Swift race in my training a week. Like just say hop on, do a Swift race because it's not it's good for you physically as well because you're getting at that effort, but mentally you're coming home from a long day or a hard day and you don't want to go through do this sweet spot workout or you don't want to
Yeah.
smash out sprints because there's a lot of mental energy involved in that. But this, yourself, like if you hop onto a group ride or you hop onto a group race, the ego kicks in.
Yeah. Oh,
Your
yeah.
ego kicks in. So you're not letting that go. You start within 10 minutes. You're racing and you're getting your good workout and you're
It's
having a good
it's
time.
just
You're
so
enjoying it as well.
it's just so easy because I have the bike, permanent bike there, and you just go out,
Yeah.
everything's jumped on it, and it is too easy to jump on, and especially with the weather we've been having the last few weeks, it's like
Oh,
I can
yeah,
just go on Swift, and then
yeah.
I, once you start doing a couple of cross races, you don't really need to go out and do the cross drills.
I find the exact same as well. I find like I'll do a few cross drills. I get on the cross bike in the summer, let's say August time, and realistically, especially when you've been racing for a few seasons, you only get sharper through racing. You can do all the
Yeah,
skill sessions you want. You ride your first couple of races, and then you feel it one with the bike. And once you're doing
yeah,
that, you actually don't need. You're dead right. I find I don't need the skills during the week because if you're racing kind of every week,
yeah.
that's just automatically get dialed. That gets dialed in
Like
automatically.
I'll probably throw in a couple of cross sessions for the technique with the running with the bike. I'll probably throw a few of those in coming up to the champs for talk's sake,
Yeah,
or like a national league. Maybe
yeah, and
throw that in.
I'm in the fortunate position like being a teacher. I have the 2 weeks Christmas holidays, and then the week after it's the champs. So
Yeah,
you're always going to fit those sessions in outside
yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
So kind of
yeah.
once you're kind of racing once every week or once every 2 weeks, those
That's
technique sessions don't matter as much because you're dialed you're doing all those skills at a higher speed in a
Yeah.
more competitive environment anyway.
Well, that takes us on to
So
the cyclocross, basically. If we want to, we can break down your race at the champs then, and then we'll talk about the season. So fifth on the day, which was a great result. I think anyone getting the top 10 now, no disrespect to anyone outside of the top 10, but it's there's a lot of depth now in the top
yes,
10.
and to get a top 10 you have to be committed to the season.
Yeah.
There's no accidental top tens. You've been
Yeah.
racing. You've raced either your
Or from
provincial
Monty.
league or the national league. Oh, well, Monty's the exception because if we were all at Monty's level when he
Yeah.
was at in 2014, we'd be able to jump
Yeah.
in and
Yeah.
get sixth as well.
Yeah.
you know. But my race was just I came into the champs. It was kind of the first champs I came into saying like last year. You're looking at the riders who I think we all do. You look at the start list and you play
Yeah.
like who can I beat,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and you kind of give yourself a number that you'd be happy
Yeah.
to happy with that result. And I think like last year I'd have been happy with sixth and I got seventh. Ty Colleen just I made a mistake and Ty Colleen just pipped me. But obviously, Tig was up a level this year,
Yeah.
and then you had, let's say, Travis Darn. If you look at the top four, if you look at Dean, Dean is in a level of his own at the moment in terms of cyclocross and bike racing. Then you had Darnell, and I was actually like Darnell. We all know his pedigree. We all know like he's past national champion. He actually won the first champs that I ever rode in Glencullen.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, so we all know how good he is. And then you have Travis and Ty Colleen, who were third and fourth, but they weren't that far behind Darnell. And let's say I think I was about another minute or so behind them, and
Yeah.
that was kind of the position I was aiming for because you're kind of close enough that you know if you hit the race on form and they hit it on form, they're going to beat you. That's the
Yeah.
thing you have to accept. But if you can be close enough to pick up the pieces, if not that
Yeah.
you'd wish it on them, but let's say someone breaks it, if it's
Yeah.
cross, if you break a mech, if you break a bike or whatever happens, you need to be close enough to pick up those pieces. And I think finishing in fifth, I was over the moon crossing the line because everything went right. I timed my training right, so I was on a really good day. The bike changes were really good. My technique. I remember riding it the day before, going, oh, I'm not a massive fan of like I'd have liked a few more power sections,
Yeah.
and I was like, but it got a bit heavier for us. But I was really dialed in on the bike technique wise. I was closing gaps because I didn't even have that great a start. I think I was like 12th going into the first corner, so I was back a bit. And
Yeah.
I found after like a lap and a half, I had moved up positions quite easy. So I knew
Yeah.
I was on a good day then. And it was just about sort of, I was battling it out with Monty for a couple of laps. And then it was kind of like, right, how am I going to try and drop Monty? Um, and it was more so I was describing it to Richie Mays afterwards because he was watching on the side and he was like,
Yeah.
don't do all the work, stop leading him out. But I knew
Yeah.
where I knew I had to be leading into the section up by the church because I knew I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
faster up there, and it was more like as I said, it was like death by a thousand cuts. I had to every punch I had to punch him, and
Yeah.
then hopefully the gap would open slowly because there wasn't enough of a section to open up on him because he's so powerful. I
Yeah.
needed like I just needed to
Because
hit the repeated short efforts and just hope he'd drop off, and that kind of worked out then,
and because of the
and it ended
corners,
up being
you had to get every corner right. There was no room for
like
error.
no, because if you made a mistake, they were back on you, and it was
Yeah.
so hard because of the way the course was. It made the racing much closer, which is
Yeah.
which was pretty good
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't have a section where if someone can do 100 or 200 watts more than you, they can actually make the most of that gap.
Yeah.
It's because the corners you're catching up, and it was just made for closer racing.
It was great
But
to
again, as
watch.
I said,
Well, yeah,
I
it was
I
great to
had to be on a
watch.
good day to do what I did, and it was just
Yeah.
like I was just happy that it worked out
And then
when the plans came together. Really,
did you do the National League then? Did you do all four
yeah,
rounds?
I did all four. I was second overall this year. Like Tig walked away with it. I think I was. The National League is a great idea, and I just love if more people like the round in. Where's the first round? The first round's up in Belfast in Falls
Yeah.
Park. Fantastic race.
Yeah.
There was a big crowd up there, and then we went to Kong it's in the Galway Mayo border, and it
Yeah.
was actually one of the best courses of the season. But there was 9 in the senior race,
Yeah.
and when you're traveling overnight, so you're doing an overnight, and you just love, let's say, if that 9 could even go up to like 25 in the senior race.
Yeah.
Because once a rider misses one, it's kind of okay to miss a few more. Like the race in Thurles then was fantastic because it's a bit more central. You had all the Munster riders come up, you had a few Ulster riders come down, all the Leinster riders travel. So the next thing there was 30 in that senior race.
Yeah.
Um, which was, and then I went to McChrystal's, and the only reason I traveled to McChrystal's that day was because I was second overall. And we all,
Yeah.
and it's nothing to do with the course, it was nothing to do with the race, but we all know we never want to race in those conditions ever again.
No.
It
Jeez, it
was
was.
just one of the cold, and everybody I spoke to afterwards was just like, I can't ever
I think
remember
there was
racing cyclocross.
a -3 wind chill. That was like going
Oh,
by the
it
Garmin and
was
stuff. Yeah.
it was insane. I was racing in, I've never raced in a jacket and tights, but I raced in a jacket and tights and I was cold.
It was funny. I was actually in the back of the van and had the diesel heater on, set to 6, and
Yeah,
just put the skin suit on and jumped out. And I was like, "Jesus, that's bad." And it was actually Mark Harvey says to me, "Maybe you should race in like a long sleeve, that sort of thing."
yeah,
And
yeah,
I went back straight back to the van, got in. My friend Murray put deep heat on the back, and I was like, no, because the,
yeah,
the spray off the wheel was coming up, and he was like, that'll just
yeah,
be right on your kidneys, right across.
yeah,
And I said, you know what? Just give me it, and I put it all over my fingers, and I put it on my toes and everything. I was just like, I'll cover myself here in it, just
yeah.
going for it. So
It was, and I suppose it's one for the it's one we'll all remember anyway. And in
yeah,
fairness for Brian for running that as well, because it's hard enough as an event organizer to
change,
put on
yeah,
races when the weather's okay. And like the best story that weekend, I don't know if you heard that, was Michael Collins, who was, I think he was ninth at nationals actually after he broke his steerer tube, but he needed
yeah,
gridding
yeah,
for
yeah.
nationals, and they were
Right,
coming up from rural County Limerick.
okay,
So they knew the snow was coming in. So Francie, his dad, is a farmer, so he drove the Jeep with the bikes in it to the main village in Newcastle
uh-huh,
West
right,
the night before. Michael then drove both of them back to the farm on the tractor. That morning they got up, drove the tractor to the Jeep in Newcastle West, which
okay,
they just about got the Jeep out of the village. It was still that much snow, and they took them whatever 5 hours to get up to McChrystal's so he could race.
jeepers, jeepers.
So there's commitment for you
Dedication.
there now.
Yeah, dedication.
That's dedication to the sport, and it was all for gridding. For it kind of comes back to nationals. It was all so he could get a better grid spot for nationals, and I think he was like because he hadn't raced, because he raced the under 23 World Cup. Like
Yeah,
it's kind of when I race the Elite World Cup, when there's not 40, when there's only 40 riders in the race, you're guaranteed a big lump of UCI points, and that sorts out your gridding for the nationals.
yeah.
Um, so I think that's what he was kind of concerned about. He wanted to be kind of at least second row, but that was some
Okay.
dedication.
Yeah. There's because like we went down the day before to the Champ Session and made a weekend out of it, but I don't know about
Mm.
making it's something we're looking at for next year. Maybe going to, I haven't done the national series, and maybe
Yeah,
just going down the day before making a weekend of it, family wise, and
yeah.
it's a
I
great,
think I'd certainly consider it if my kids were a little bit older, if they were kind of your age, because it is
yeah,
like the benefits of going to, let's say, some races the night before. I think this year I had like 4 or 5 overnights, and you do get to see an awful lot of the country as well. Like it's
yeah,
not
yeah,
we're not on a massive island,
yeah,
and then you get to see, like, without getting too deep about it, culturally each province is different as well.
yeah,
So like I actually love going up to, like, the last couple of years being up in Falls Park or even going up to Orangefield a couple of times.
yeah,
Those races, it's great to go up and race that cross scene, and then you go down and you're racing a Leinster race, and even though it's all in the same country, each race is kind of it's got its own style.
yeah. Its own
And
characteristics.
and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I think as well it was funny. I was watching one of your videos from like 2017, and I think it was the Knocknagonie one, and I was looking at the pit. Like, it was still a double pit, but the pit entry, like, was at a left. I just noticed that it was like the course went left, but it was like you went through a square gate into the pit and then had a
yeah,
sharp, like, nowadays, like when you ran that race, the double pit, that's fantastic. And nowadays you look at it going, well, that pit's probably a bit dodgy.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
it's great to see that and I just remember for those videos, you were always pushing the standard, and it's great to see, like, there's no single pits anymore in any
No,
regional race.
geez.
Like, you go to every
Yeah,
Munster race, and every Munster League race, double pits. Every National Series race, like, and they're big, they're wide. People are kind of
yeah.
designing their courses around where to put the
That's
pits and where to
Jim as
put the start
well,
line.
Jim Adams, because he came with
Yeah,
us
yeah.
over to a couple of the races, and I can remember, and he brings that back, but I can remember the first time I'd sort of seen the massive pits. I don't know if you raced it. Was Ross
Hmm.
Trevor, and
No, I didn't race. I didn't.
you came down to the trees, and then you came out, and it was just the pits,
Hmm.
and they were massive. And
Yeah,
that obviously that was Martin, but it was just like, whoa, you know, you just everyone
this is
had
what it should be.
space, yeah. And as he said, he
Yeah,
started off with the pits and then made the course from there. So
yeah.
yeah, the
And
standards definitely
I just
lifted.
think, and I think the stand, and everybody's trying like, and then you look at it culminates in something like Ballinasloe this year, which was we had racing in a town centre.
Yeah,
Everywhere was 3 meters wide, and it
yeah,
was just like Gary McElroy was saying, Flanders Classics would love that. Two or three
yeah,
cameras, you'd cover the race.
yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
like make a massive race out of it. And it's people, it's those volunteers who are kind of willing to up the standard to put in the time and effort. Because I'm not sure a lot of people, well, I know because we've hosted our own races, but like these races don't happen by themselves.
no, geez,
You know what I mean?
we,
And you know full well from the amount of
yeah,
race organizing you do as well. Like you're probably relying on a 4 or 5 volunteers every race, like,
yeah. I have a
if
good
that.
squad of there's maybe a good 4 or 5 of us, and obviously different over the years. It's just dwindled, just different things, different
Yeah,
commitments. And I don't
yeah,
expect anybody to say yes to me, whenever I ask them
hmm,
to help.
yeah,
So, like, we got caught out at Mollusk the last time we ran it, and it
yeah,
was pitch black, and we're taking the tape down. And I don't know why, I just didn't say to myself, I'll come tomorrow, the next day, and take it down. But like, there was maybe 3 or 4 of us left at one stage, just taking the tape down. It was like,
yeah.
no, never again, unless I can get
It's
20
it's
guys.
too much work.
Yeah,
It's too much work for one person or for 2 people or 3 people to take on because I suppose it's no longer just like stakes in a field. It's like
yeah,
no, if you're putting on a race, there's like, and I've seen it throughout the years. It's because I suppose I started in cyclocross a little bit after you, but let's say I think it was 2015 was my first season, and 2016 was when the Munster race was starting. And I thought we actually started our course at a pretty high level for like a
yeah.
new league coming on board. But the standard of course is now like
Oh, jeez, yeah, yeah.
versus 5 or 6 years ago, even in Munster, is just gone through the roof because
It's
everybody's
just
pushing it on. And
it's just to pick up these different things at a race, and then you do it, and then it becomes the
the
standard,
expected,
Yeah,
yeah,
expected and standard. It's like we were at a race there in Cavan, and they had, I think it was horse rope instead of the
oh
tape,
yeah,
and it was like, yeah,
okay,
but I've I have a trailer now full of stuff, and I was able to get the tape, but we used the rope. But it's just like just different things that you're picking up, and
yeah,
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 the
yeah.
standards that definitely lifted. So what's the plans then going on the rest of the season? Where what's
I
any
suppose I'm kind
plans?
of that's kind of season it for me. I mean, the Zwift Games has been the last couple of rounds of the Zwift Games has been delayed till April. And sorry, the Zwift World Series till April. The Zwift Games are on in March, but so ultimately I'll probably take 2 or 3 weeks pretty easy. I'll still ride my bike because I like
Yeah,
riding my bike.
yeah,
Um, but
just
from a
no
training point
numbers.
of view, yeah, no numbers. Hop onto a few Zwift races, just have a laugh. Just
Yeah,
it's not that you didn't enjoy it before, but it is like it'll be nice to be at home weekends now.
yeah.
And it kind of times well. Like my wife plays camogie, so she's going to be back playing matches in a couple of weeks. So
Okay.
it's going to be nice. Like I think that's the great thing. It's like it kind of I don't feel as if I'm taking away because we both have our own different sports here.
Yeah.
Um, but I think
Will you do
it's
any
nice not
road
to hop in the
racing?
car.
Will you do any road racing or
Um,
mountain biking?
maybe a local league race or so. I don't own a mountain bike, and
Okay.
there's not much mountain biking around where I
No.
live. And my thing is like if I have to drive to go mountain biking, I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So even though I'd love to try it out, I might do a few local league races on the road. But um, I loved road racing when I did it. I'm not, no real focus on it.
Yeah.
If I can get 3 hours done on a Sunday morning and be home at 12 o'clock, then you have the day with the family.
There's
That suits me down to
there's
the ground.
Instagram account there. I think his name's Joan Rafferty. Uh, he
Yes.
started uploading all the photos like from early 2000s onwards.
I started following him 2 days
Yeah,
ago, and I've just been glued because there's guys who I started road racing with, and you're seeing photos from, and it's
yeah,
generally all the races up the north, but like from the national
yeah.
championships, and seeing pictures like Tommy Evans and
Yeah,
Martin Irvine. I think there's a couple of Paul Healy
that's yeah.
um,
The sock
and I just
game
love
of
seeing
week
the sock game, the baggy jerseys.
glasses. Yeah,
The vibe is just
that's
there's one of
it's
Ronan McLaughlin there actually, and the
yeah,
jerseys just hanging off him.
yeah. There's one of me when I was in Audi, and it just looks like a paper bag on me. So it does. It's just like it's all creased, and it's like oh, and then
Yeah,
you're just looking at other things, going,
but
what was I thinking at the time? You know?
that's the great thing. I'm delighted he's put all this on Instagram because that's
Yeah,
like I know people give out on social media. I think the one thing our sport needs and the one thing we can give to it if we have an interest in it is we can put our photos up. You can put your
yeah,
podcast out. You can put your videos up. We'll like Keith. I know you mentioned him last week. Keith Colville and the I forgot to
brilliant.
enter. Like
Yeah,
it's just
brilliant.
like these things are keeping our sport alive. And I know like people love to give out about oh, Cycling Ireland aren't doing enough or whatever. They are on their socials, but it just needs the community
Yeah,
to kind of grow and bring it in together and just
yeah, yeah.
kind of
We're,
like.
it's so easy to criticize, that people aren't
Mhm.
doing enough, but. you know, I just enjoy doing these and the likes of getting your likes of yourself on bit of
Yeah.
crack, bit of chat, and
Exactly, and it's the likes of Toby Watson and Sean Rowe who love taking photos, and
yeah,
I don't want to miss out on any names like Damien
uh,
Faulkner and Caroline
Karen,
Curley,
yeah,
like all the photographers, and it creates this big community, and
yeah,
like obviously Cycling Ireland are there to promote it, but they have all the disciplines, and if
yeah.
we can all kind of take a piece of that and kind of push, I know
What
I
would
did
I?
it, I did a podcast last year with Jason Travers, we did it for probably the
Yeah,
best part of 2 seasons, the Munster Cyclocross chat. Again, but I suppose the thing is you get busy. Like Jason started his own business, so it wasn't possible to do it this year.
yeah, yeah.
But the more we can kind of push it and
That's it.
get people out there and listening and watching.
I want to try and streamline this all a wee bit better, and so that you know maybe record it on the way home on a Sunday after the race and have it ready for
Yeah,
Monday morning. So there's a couple of ideas and a couple of chats to be had.
yeah,
But like you're saying there with the photographers, like if the guys don't take the photos, there's nothing else on social media. It's just the results then. That's all it's going to be.
and there's no sport, and like I know we like I'm guilty of it as well. You look at a result from a road race, or you look at a result from a cross race, and you say, "Geez, how was he 4 minutes back, or how was he
Yeah,
6 minutes back?" He should, but there's a story behind every
yeah,
performance.
yeah,
You how did he beat who, or how did she beat her, or how did he beat him?
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
well, there's no stories behind. If you see a photo and suddenly I don't know Darnell's running with his bike because the derailleur's hanging off, or
yeah.
then you say, all right, okay, like every person you chat to people after races, and everybody has their own story of that race.
The
And
Keith got a brilliant footage of all the races, but obviously the race that I was having last at the champs, and he's so excited in it, and I actually asked him for it, so just to have it to keep,
yeah,
because it's a keepsake. There is a space there in the for video, but again, that's
yeah,
just
there
it's
is.
a full time that's a full time job. Mark Harvey used to be
It
brilliant
is.
at it whenever he was in the club, and but obviously you're at the race to race or to help. You're not there to video.
Yeah. And
So
you're relying on people who have an interest. You're not sort of like,
yeah,
if they happen to be available, it's they have an interest, like as you said, Keith has a big interest in it, you have an interest in it.
yeah,
But again, that's not your priority at the time.
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
Keith's trying to push it a bit more, but which is
No,
good. But it's
he's killing
still
it. Like he really is.
he's absolutely doing a great job.
Yeah. So he's actually going next week. So try and get some footage and have a couple of wee
Oh, is he? Oh
sound
yes.
clips. Yeah, yeah, sound clips next week. So
There's going to be some serious foot. Oh, I don't know whether I want video footage of next weekend actually.
well, I'm going to
Maybe the
try and get.
racing, not.
I'll try and get a next week's one will be. This will be out tomorrow hopefully, and then the following week will be maybe a slightly delayed. Just do a recap of the weekend away, and then I
And
think
it's
of
great that Wout's starting next weekend as well.
yeah,
We might
yeah,
have an old battle in that men's race because the women's
that's
race is
it.
going to be a cracker next week.
Oh, just all of them. So I think there's
Yeah.
four riders, isn't there, from here?
It's 4-3. Yeah,
Three
it's
juniors.
Esther's in the women's race, and then Connor, Curtis, and Ryan Daly
Brilliant. So
in the
yeah, and
juniors.
there's 50 or 60 guys going over. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah,
So it is.
we'll
So
have
well, thanks for the
a
chat,
good old time over
and
there. Thanks,
hopefully
Len.
keep this going longer than the last time, and I'll maybe check in then. But just before cross season, when do you sort of start the
Yeah,
ball rolling for cross?
I kind of dust down the cross. Like I generally make sure everything's right on the bikes before I put them away.
Yeah,
Um, so like I'll get new chains, I'll get the bearings changed because I have time to do that now over the next, let's say, 6-8 weeks. And I
yeah,
like tinkering around with bikes, so I'll have
yeah.
the bikes all sorted then, and I'll probably start doing a few sort of skill sessions, maybe August. But the training will
Okay,
start in like my base training will probably start in May. You still have to
yeah.
put the base like and
Which yeah,
as I always say, the great thing about cross is like you're doing the base training in the good weather and you're racing
yeah,
in the crap weather. Whereas
yeah.
the roads kind of
Well, that's what happened
the
to me last year. I stopped for a week, which turned into about 4 months and maybe 8 or 9 kilos. And
yeah, yeah,
yeah, so yeah, I'm saying to myself this year, I'm not stopping. I'm going to keep going. So
yeah. Good,
that's the thing.
good. And
Tie
when
over.
will you
So
kick off then? Will you just stay
well,
on the bike, or will you be
I'll
doing any
just
road
probably
racing
stay on the
yourself?
bike, and I have a couple of plans for the summer, and I don't want to say them out loud
Very
in
good.
case they don't happen.
Fair enough.
But I'll see closer to the time, and then just as you say, August. We used to do a couple of
Yeah,
great sessions up in Stormont, and like it's like Travis was saying to me the other day that uh, loved the sessions in Stormont, and I'm going, I don't actually remember him being there. There used to be that many
yeah,
guys used
yeah,
to come to
yeah.
them, and I was like,
Because
oh,
Robin
oh
has a brilliant grouping. Has
yeah,
Robin has a group on a Thursday night that's like I've looked at videos like there's 30 riders there
yeah.
on a
And
Thursday
it's
night
like
in lights. So
we're not actually meant to be in there, and I'm going, geez, like there's the XMTB squad come over. There's a couple of Ards
yeah,
guys come over, and you're just like, it's too many here, you know. So because I'm the one riding about in the Kenning cycle, so sometimes it comes back to me, you
yeah,
know.
it
So
come back to you. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, you have to get yourself up for one of those. So August time
Well,
anyway,
yeah.
but
August. It's a long weekend in Belfast. Sounds good.
yeah, the week a couple
Sounds
maybe
good.
hopefully Orangefield happens this year.
Brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll have a
Try and get
couple
up
of
for that.
ideas for that. That'll be the 10th year if it happens, and we're thinking of floodlighting it and
Okay.
just leaving it there and putting the plug on it
Yeah,
after that. So
yeah.
um,
Racing under
yeah,
lights is so cool.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe I've asked for National League, but we'll see.
Okay, we'll
It's got
see.
its benefit and it's got its disadvantages.
Yes,
So
it
because
does.
if it's
Yeah,
not,
it does.
but I'll not be able to race it if it's National League race, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see.
There you
We'll
go.
see. But
Exactly.
brilliant.
Right.
Thanks for
Excellent. Thanks, Len. Good to
yes, and well
chat. And
done.
sure,
And see you
I'll see
soon.
you next
Yes,
weekend.
yes.
Right. Yeah, I'll
Looking
see you
for
next weekend.
looking forward to it, mate. See you. I'll get you a pint.